and he speaks his mind. But to me personally, he's been a mentor, and if I may call a friend. And right from the first day of entrepreneurship, I have much to thank him for. So thank you, Mr. Pai. Very grateful for that. Thank you. Thank you. And on my left, this handsome dude is 1 year senior from college. He was at Sriram College of Commerce. I was at Hindu. And then we both went to Oxford together. We shared many, many years of solid friendship. So thank you. But we won't pull our punches, right?
We won't pull our punches.
We won't pull our punches. All right, let's go for it. Sanjeev, I want to start with you, the broad story. I had the first session today, and with both of you, I want to talk about India, macro, growth story, where we are placed, reality, China. I don't want us to be politically correct out here today. We'll do some free talking, right? That's what Republic Business has to bring in, the breath of fresh air to the world of thinking on economy, policy of the country. Sanjeev, your recent video explainers, which I've seen on the digital medium, have gone viral. You've been telling young Indians in fantastic podcasts about the fundamentals of what's going right. And I think you're doing a great job. Now, you are the advisor in the Prime Minister's team. Is anything going wrong? You can't just give me the good story all the time. There must be a bigger challenge. There must be something we can tweak.
So one important thing to understand about economic management is that it's not about at any point in time that things are in a situation where we can just cruise. It's like driving. You have to pay attention to the road all the time. So right now, the economy, as the latest numbers came out, for the first half of the financial year, we grew at about 7.7%. For the year as a whole, we'll grow at something around about, right? We are doing this without any stress on the macro side. There's no spiraling inflation. The external accounts are fine. The banks are fine, and so on. So you may seem that this looks, in a sense, rosy. But of course, we are hitting these growth rates at a difficult time in world economic situation, in terms of the fact that the rest of the world is actually decelerating. The US Fed has dramatically tightened interest rates over the last 24 odd months. There are serious geopolitical risks. And of course, there's always a random risk of some new thing appearing, pandemic or whatever it is. So a lot of it is about paying attention to the system, adjusting along the way, and creating enough buffers in the system that, should things go wrong, you have enough ammunition to do things. So even during COVID, if you will remember, we didn't blow up our fiscal and monetary reserves. So this is the key.
Yeah.
At this point in time, if our external environment was better, if our exports were growing somewhat faster than they are right now, we could have been doing 8% easily, because our infrastructure, our labor market, etc. will allow us. But we are conservative. And with this conservative...
Is that because we are a democracy? Unlike China.
Well,
let's go cut to the chase.
There are many democracies in the world who are in fact under populist pressure to press the accelerator all the time. Go and do reveries of various kind, blow up the fiscal. In fact, the Western countries that blew up their budgets during COVID were all democracies. And all the experts in the world were telling us to blow up our budget here as well. So it's not about democracy only. It is about political leadership. It's about the technocratic advice you get. And what we did as a country is to hold together, stick to sensible policies, even during difficult times. And we are reaping the benefits of that today.
I think the mandate, day before's mandate, has a huge significance, Mohan, because it gives us 5.5 years of straight political continuity. Now, obviously, someone like you would want to see that wherever we have our relative weaknesses vis-a-vis China, and I'm keeping on talking about China because, Elon Musk says there are 9 Chinese companies will be among the top 10 car makers in the world, even though Tesla China's sales fell by 18% in November. My question is, why isn't Tesla in India yet? I have no doubt that our government will protect and adopt an India First blueprint. My question is, why are we still lagging behind? We have the largest population in the world. You're an HR person, nobody better than you. Our labor force participation, Mohan, is 51%, trailing China by 25 percentage points. Now, what can close the gap there, Mohan?
Arnab, first of all, thank you for inviting me. And
Oh, thank you for coming.
You said that I'm your friend and mentor. I must tell everybody, I'm one of the few people who got 2 minutes to talk on his shows without him shutting me off, because he's very kind to me. Arnab, people of India should know what India has been throughout history. Throughout history, from the start of civilization till 1750, China, India made up 45% of world GDP. Correct. We were among the richest countries in the world after China, before China, because we had a very large skilled population with the largest arable land in the world. We are surplus in agriculture. We exported garments and spices to Rome. Pliny the Elder wrote 2000 years ago, trade with India will impoverish Rome because we sought gold and silver for return. Then we had, despite an invasion by the jihadi forces, we still survived. Then came the colonial loot. The British colonized India, destroyed our industry. The Industrial Revolution started. They took away $45 trillion of our wealth, as per Utsa Patnaik of Columbia University, between 1757 to 1947. And we were impoverished by this rule. Now, we declined during that time. And when we got our freedom, our first Prime Minister made terrible mistakes. He brought in something called socialism. Gandhiji had said, this desh mein sarkar vyapari hai, us desh mein janta bhikhari hai. He made us bhikharis. In 1947, we were the best economy, the richest economy in Asia, because China was destroyed in the war, Japan was destroyed in the war, Southeast Asia was destroyed in the war. We had the best industrial infrastructure. Great Britain owed us £1.5 billion in war debt. And of the 5 richest families in Asia, 3 were Indian. What did Nehru do? He suppressed Indian private capital. This is not about public sector. He suppressed private capital, brought in licensed quota Raj, centralized economic power in Delhi, ruined the economy, and created corruption which his daughter took forward. Let me give you data. Between 1950 to 1980, India grew at 3.5%. Raj Krishna called it decisively the Hindu rate of growth. And population grew at 2.5%. Per capita income grew at 1%. And in 1980 to 1990, we grew at 5.5%, population 2.25%, per capita 3.25%, debt went up from 20 billion to 80 billion, and we broke in 91. In 91, when you opened up, GDP was 275 billion. That has grown at 8.2% a year till 2023 for 32 years to $3.45 trillion. Which country has done that? Because we unleashed gave economic freedom to our people, unleashed the Indian entrepreneurs, despite the Congress running for that period and going back and forth, right? And GDP in rupee terms grew from 5,35,000 crores to 273 lakh crores, 13.2% a year. This happened because we got economic freedom. Now we speak about China. China opened up.
We didn't get economic freedom in 47?
We didn't. I mean, you tell, we are all suppressed. Private capital was suppressed. You see what Nehru did to JRD when he went for his expansion of his plan. He said profit is a dirty word. He didn't listen to him. I mean, the disaster that was created. Arnab, I graduated in 1979. The movie Diwar epitomized what it was. A failed country with no hope and no jobs. And who are the heroes? Karim Lala and Haji Mastan, because their smugglers had money. Nobody had money. We had no hope, no dreams. All right? And we came into the work. You were born much later, so I must forgive you. We saw all that. 91 we opened up, and 91 gave hope. I think 91 started the renaissance of India. I'll give some more data, then I think I'll answer the question. China started in 78. What did China do first? China first liberalized agriculture and doubled production in 10 years. It liberalized the coastal areas and brought in the SEZ where whole districts were done. Women came in the workforce. Then they built infrastructure and supply chain. Then they created 1,000 universities with 25 to 30,000 people. Then they created high-tech industry. They got the sequence right. Of course, the totalitarian government, but no country has achieved what China has done. We went back and forth because of political reasons. Now, if you look at India today, it's 3.45 trillion, 272 lakh crores. Sanjeev must be credited with something wonderful, I must tell you. He is the one who told India will be $5 trillion by 2025, and it's going to be true. He said 5 trillion at 75 rupees to a dollar. That is 375 lakh crores. We are about 302 lakh crores in 24 March. We had 1 year of negative growth. If you added 10% to that, there'll be 340. And by 25, will be about 345 lakh crores. Would have been 375 at 75 rupees to a dollar. And why did the rupee go to 83 today? It's because of the COVID and the price of oil going up. Now, what is the structural weakness of India? The structural weakness of India is we have a trade deficit in goods of $270 billion. And we import $200 billion of oil, gross, net about $120 billion because we export, I think, 80 billion or 60 billion. We are big exporters of oil products. All right? That has been the bane of India, and that's why we had a deficit on the trade account, and the balance of payment was filled by investment coming from outside. Today, an interesting thing has happened. On the services side, we have a surplus. Last year, 195 billion. Nilesh Mehta of the Economist of Axis has said that the surplus will go to something like 250, 260 billion in 3 years. And if the trade deficit comes down because of exports, our deficit in goods and surplus in our services will be almost equal. That will remove India's vulnerability. Our financial sector is in great shape. Banks are clean, they got adequate capital. Our entrepreneurs are fighting on all grounds. We are able to access capital. Our capital amounts are doing well. We have a young population, average age 29 years. Of course, many are not educated, but we have enough skilled people. You know, I remember, Arnab, when the IT industry started, McKinsey said we'll have 500,000 shortage of engineers by 2010. I was laughing all the way to the bank and said, we are going to train them. Today, we have 5.5 million people working in software exports. We export $200 billion of software. We export more software than Saudi Arabia exports oil. Of the top 10 software service companies, the market value, 5 are Indian. Of the top 5, 3 are Indian. Of the 3.2 million employees in the top 10, 2.3 million are Indians. And we hired 500,000 people in technology, 50% of world hiring 2 years ago. This has become the area on which we have built this kind of a technology industry, and we have got 100,000 startups, $550 billion of value, 1.6 million people employed. So we got everything going for us as a nation. Go forward 5 years, 7 years. What is going to happen? Supply chain efficiencies. You know, Sanjeev and the government have built roads. Our railways used to go at 25 kilometers an hour. Now the corridor on the left and the right, on the east and the west, will go at 65 kilometers. We have built expressways. So supply chain costs, which are 14% of GDP, could come down to 8%. GST is throwing up money, formalization economy. IBC, all the crooks who rob the banks are going to jail, are going away to London. You can meet your friends there in London when you go there at Oxford, other places. And I think if you look at all this, Arnab, I never felt more hopeful in my life. This is fantastic, except for the narrative. Now, why is the narrative? Because Delhi was captured by somebody called the lieutenants elite who fed off the poor of this country. They got all the goodies and the jobs. Now they've been decimated. Delhi is not India. They all thought Delhi was India. What Delhi does, India should follow. I'm from Bangalore. When I come to Delhi, I feel like it's a very strange country where the language they talk is something we don't understand.
Let me defend Delhi.
So I think, I mean, you're still
Delhi wala. Let me say that.
Arnab, I'll just finish. I'll finish. Now, the problem we have, Arnab, is the narrative about India has to change. The narrative has to say, Sanjeev or somebody, and you have to change that to show India in this light. No large country in the world has flourished with a democratic tradition like India. India is the greatest experiment in democracy ever since human civilization began. We don't have to go by the Swedish who say some electoral autocracy, all kind of nonsense. They don't understand. Sweden is such a small country, is less than the population of Delhi. Now, we have to create the narrative. We need people like Sanjeev to go speak to the world. We need Rajiv Chandrasekhar to talk about the Universal Declaration of Digital Rights. We need Prime Minister Modi to talk about how climate change is going to be led by, climate change remediation is going to be led by India. And we should take the lead for the world with Republic leading.
How do you remember all these numbers, man? What did you get? What was your percentage in class 10, class 12? What is your IQ? What's your memory? You're amazing, man. You got some artificial intelligence inside of the reels of the numbers. But I see your conviction there. Welcome. Sanjeev Goenka is in the house, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Sanjeev, for coming in. The question being out here, we're talking about the great Indian advantage. You know, I am not sure whether we are really a free market economy yet. Because around 10 kilometers of where we are right now, radius, there are some very rich left liberals there. Some very rich left liberals, you know. And we have to be clear what direction our country's economy has to take. We can't romanticize socialism and then talk about free market economics. I think it's clear. We need to decide where we stand on it. Are we clear?
So I think we need to be clear. But
because for example, Narayan Murthy said recently, I don't know whether it was in the interview with Mohandas Pai, where he said that freebies only work if the beneficiaries give something back to the society. In that context, are we a free market economy, or do we have some nostalgic link to socialism of the past?
So, I mean, to a large extent, we are a free market economy. I am not a libertarian. There is a place for the government as well. But let me first respond on behalf of Delhiwalas that Delhi is not only Lodi Road and Nizamuddin East. There is a large part of Delhi where there are hard-working people who believe in entrepreneurship and innovation and have been equally held back by this socialism imposed, by the way, by that rich elite. Yes. So this is a long history, by the way.
Sanjeev, you've been Luthianized.
No, listen. There is a long history of people climbing to the top and kicking the ladder away. Right? So this is happening not just in India. It's also true if you go to the West as well. You will see all the trust fund kids are the ones who are leading every socialist march against Wall Street or whatever it is. Basically, what happens is that once you become rich, you want to switch off the engine that leads to competition and hard work, etc., which another generation may come and compete with you. So this is basically what happened. I mean, if you go back all the way to the beginning, what happened in the 1940s? You know, people, if you look at Nehru's idea of socialism, he was fully backed by the entrepreneurs of that time with something called Bombay Plan. And people see, even the capitalists supported it. So remember one thing, never confuse capitalism with the interests of the capitalists. Because they will be the first to introduce all kinds of things in the way to stop new competition to come into the system. And therefore...
Is that why between 1947 and 1991, the only significant major competitor in an all-India business landscape was the Ambanis?
Absolutely.
Besides the Ambanis, which other family between 1947 and 1991 emerged as the double unicorn of the time?
Absolutely.
None.
So none.
So that explains it.
Absolutely. So between 1947 and 1991, it's the same families that are running the show. So exactly what you should expect, to happen in a license.
If you stop defending Delhi, can I come to the question, please?
Yeah. So the question is...
My question is,
yes.
We're talking about the India advantage. And I began by trying to get you on the weaknesses of the moment. I feel, for example, that we are not innovative enough and we're not accelerating the pace of innovation. How many, you don't disagree with... No, let me deal with it. Okay. Let us make it process-driven. How long does it take, Mohan, to register a patent in India? As opposed to... No, I'll give you facts. In India, it will take you average 42 months. It will take you 18 months in China.
I totally agree with you.
You agree with me on that?
I agree with you.
He agrees with me on that.
So this is exactly...
So my point is, we have to be the innovators. Are we doing that enough?
No, so this is exactly what I am working on. In fact, one of the things I work on a daily basis is on something called process reforms. So these are not the very cool structural reforms everybody wants. These are the painful nuts and bolts reforms. So since you brought up patents, let me tell you. I did a paper about 18 months ago about the patent system. And we found a lot of process problems. But one of the major things we found is that this is one area where we don't actually have enough people. So we have 800 examiners and controllers in our patent office. The Chinese have 13,000.
Yes.
Okay. So I raised this issue. Let me say that we are currently in the process of increasing that number from 800 to 3,000 in the first phase. And the first 500 of those people have already been hired. They are being trained as we speak.
Good.
Another 400 are going to be hired by April or May or thereabouts. So, as I said, the number is doubled. So let me show you what is the benefit of this. You know, as recently as 2016-17, we were only giving out 9,000 patents a year. Last year, we gave out 35,000 patents a year. This year, we will go up to 50 to 60,000 patents a year. And in about 18 months from now, we will be doing 1 lakh patents per year. So that is, in less than 10 years, a 10 times increase, more than a 10 times increase in the number of patents we are pumping out. So precisely what you said, we find the place where the gap is, invest in it. If you have to hire people, smoothen the process, whatever is necessary, and just go for it.
Okay, he wants to respond to that.
Yeah.
You know, you spoke about innovation. Let me give some data. US invested 2.32 trillion from 2014 to 22 into venture and startups. China 832 billion. India is the third largest digital power in the world. We've only invested 140 billion, out of which only about maybe 110 or 120 billion came from overseas capital. Rest our Indians did not invest. We don't have capital, Arnab. We need money for investment, for innovation. The total spending on research by all the Indian universities is about 5,500 crores, less than what Harvard does. How do you expect us to be innovative when you don't invest in R&D in our universities, when you don't have capital to back people? We need money. We got human capital, physical capital is coming up now. We need financial capital. And for the financial capital to come, we have to invest. We are investing, Arnab, 31% of GDP, $1 trillion a year on gross capital formation. There are only 3 countries in the world which invest more than $1 trillion every year. The United States, China and India.
No, but we are overplaying. When you say we have human capital, I think we must stop being in the self-congratulatory mood.
It's not about congratulations. I'm giving you data.
No, I'm also giving you data.
Let me give you data.
I'll give you data.
We graduate 800,000 engineers.
Correct.
400,000 can work and be trained. The 400,000 balance are good to ride Ola, Uber. That's okay.
No, so that's what I'm saying.
No,
1 minute. I'm saying the World Bank, we had this human capital index which is on a scale of 0 to 1. India was at 0.4 and China was at 0.65.
Annab, China opened
that measures outcomes in terms of health and education.
Annab, China is a $20 trillion economy. We are a 3.
No, why should we not? No, should we want to compete with Vietnam or China?
We'll compete with China. We're
if you're competing with China, then I ask you this, Mohan.
Yes.
Look at this, Apple. Now, Apple wants to decrease its dependency on China, right? My question is, and please answer this with some thought, who are we competing with? China or Vietnam? Because Apple is not just reducing its dependency by moving manufacturing bases to India, it's also moving to Vietnam. So the trick is in the question, who is India and who is our economy competing with? Are we competing with China or are we competing with Vietnam?
Arnab, let us realize the scale difference between China and India.
Yeah, that's why I'm asking you the question.
I mean, look, you got to grow, and to grow, we need to create conditions. It's very difficult to manufacture in this country. Every Tom, Dick and Harry comes and demands a bribe, they come and stop.
The scale is built over 10 years by Deng Xiaoping.
One government officer told my colleague at Infosys, Mr. Kamath, I can close down Infosys in a day. Mr. Kamath told him, sir, please come and close. I'll call the international media and do it in front of them. How many will challenge government? We have an oppressive government system at the states level. But despite that, Arnab, we've done so well. Look at the positive side. We will grow to be a $10 trillion economy 2032, 2035.
But who are we competing with? China?
We're competing with China because China has 25% of global manufacturing. China is a global power. But there is a shift away from China. Part of it is coming to India. But when it comes to India, we make it difficult. So what we have to do, we have to create contract manufacturing, like China did. A large part of Chinese manufacturing is contract manufacturing. For the first time now, we got 10, 12 companies who are doing contract manufacturing, who will set up plants, for like Dixon or somebody else, who set up plants so global brands can come and manufacture and create an export base for India. These things are happening, Arnab, in a very big way. So I'm more positive. Look, we are still a poor country. We got 2,500. But our PPP is $12.2 trillion. India has the highest PPP multiple of 3.5. China has got 0.6.
Why PPP? We should look at per capita.
So anyway, we're
downplaying our expectations.
So Arnab,
we're downplaying our expectations.
Arnab,
no.
Arnab,
no, he's downplaying expectations.
No, we don't have to downplay our expectations. We got to be realistic and honest.
So let me say, first of all, on your Vietnam versus China issue, look, there is a huge gap in all these.
Sure.
So first of all, China is 4.5 times our economy.
Yeah.
But do remember that we are 8 times the size of Vietnam's economy. We are not competing with Vietnam. By the way, they are a friendly country and we wish them well. So that is not the issue. Point is, Vietnam cannot simply provide the scales we can. And yes, the odd company will go there. But there is, even in terms of FDI that is coming, we are in a totally different scale. So the first people we are competing with is in fact ourselves. and our own potential, part of the reason we are growing at this speed is in fact removing some of the hurdles that Mohan is talking about. In terms of all this Inspector Raj that he's talking about is absolutely correct. One of the jobs I have is in fact to go through our laws and remove these kinds of useless sort of rent-seeking things that are there in our legal system. One of the things I'm working on right now is our legal metrology. In case you don't know what legal metrology is, these are the laws relating to weights, measures and labels. Now this is probably the single biggest source of small-scale rent-seeking by our inspectors across the country. And using minor flaws in the labels, etc., a huge amount of corruption goes on at the lower levels. I'm personally pushing for these laws to be changed. Similarly, all kinds of such small rules are being changed on a daily basis. They don't show up in headlines because they're mostly very boring changes. But the cumulative impact of this is what is showing through in the 7% GDP growth rate. And we are very conscious of these small pinpricks that are there. I'm not at all making an excuse for them. You find me a bunch of new ones, I will work on those as well.
Yeah, I fully congratulate you on it. I think it's the Q2 GDP numbers. I think the RBI forecast was what, 6.8% and it was 7.5%.
Yeah, it was significantly above RBI, and
yeah.
I'll tell you for the full year, we will do 7%, which will not just be above most forecasts, it will be by some margin the fastest growing economy in the world. I mean, China is not even going to hit 5%. And it is a matter of...
And you know, Arnab, we had to update our data. Sanjeev wrote a beautiful article about this women participation in the workforce. About 12-15 years ago, ILO changed the definition of women participation to say women in economic activity at home are not to be counted. So it came down by 10%. And the same 10% decline comes on even today.
There also we are way behind China.
No, we are way behind. But let me tell you.
We're 25%, China is 71%.
We are way behind, but let me tell you, we have to produce jobs, Arnab. If you come to the whole of the south, there are more jobs than people. If you go to West Bengal, there are no jobs, they're all immigrating. If you go to Jharkhand, they're immigrating. You go to Bihar, they're immigrating. Bihar's per capita income is about $75,000. Karnataka is 75,000 rupees. Karnataka is 3,85,000 rupees. Right? UP has done well because of Yogi. People are not immigrating as much. So India is a collection of many, many different states in many states of development. The entirety, for example, West Bengal and Bihar possibly make up 24 crores. 24 crores is about 18% of India's population, which is growing slowly with poor per capita income, not enough jobs. EPFO says last year we had 1.5 crore new people joining EPFO with Aadhaar. That many new jobs were created in this country. We have done the analysis and going to create a report called the India Jobs Report. Sanjeev, I'll send you the report, which says 80% of Indian jobs pay less than 20,000 rupees. We have to create higher paying jobs which can come by productivity. It's not jobs. Do the jobs pay enough? We have a wage problem, not a jobs problem. I think those are things that are happening in
So
the
Mohan
economy.
brought up actually a very important issue. You see, in the general conversations, this is a lot of talk about North-South divide. Actually, the North-South divide in India is irrelevant. The real divide in India is East-West. Okay, the western half of India is radically growing faster, more prosperous, everything is growing, than the eastern half of India. This is even true of states that are large states. You know, western parts of UP, western parts of Madhya Pradesh are more prosperous than the eastern parts. But this is very big. These differences are really big when you look at the national level. So the single biggest source of this problem is the following. You see, rapid economic growth is ultimately an urban activity. Every part of India that has grown rapidly has basically, it's an urban thing. In the north, it's Delhi NCR, very broadly defined. You take Western India, it's Bombay, Pune, Surat, Ahmedabad, that is the zone that's generating the growth. In the south, it's the triangle of Hyderabad, Bangalore and Chennai. Eastern India, the real failure is that of Kolkata. The failure of Kolkata infects all of the
east of India.
And really, forget statewide, thinking about this in states, think of these as cities. If you want eastern half of the country to really get going, in the end, Kolkata is a disproportionately large city in eastern India and it has to pull its weight.
Yes.
If you want eastern India to grow, Kolkata has to grow at 15% year-on-year growth rate for 20 years. That is what will suck in, get Bhubaneswar going, get Patna going, Ranchi going. That is going to be the real driver of growth.
What pulls that back? What pulls it back?
Well, obviously we know what the problem is.
What is
For
that?
a long time, people talk about the political issue of it, but this actually goes back some distance. When I was born in 1970, let me tell you, Kolkata was not just the intellectual capital of India, cultural capital of India, it was also the financial capital of India. It was the industrial capital of India. In fact, if you went a little bit back to the time of independence, 1947, Kolkata had the largest cluster of industry in Asia outside of Japan, and Japan's industrial capacity was in shambles. So, from that to becoming essentially irrelevant even inside India is really the story. And the story for this, well, it's a combination of various things, but one of them is a major intellectual failure. It is Kolkata's elite at some point in time decided to go backwards. And the price that Eastern India has paid for this has been very big. In terms of, after all, Bangalore is now very proud of the digital economy and all of that. All of this used to be in Kolkata.
Yes.
And IBM, I remember this clearly, IBM was actually hounded out of Kolkata in the early 80s. And it ended up being in Bangalore.
So you're picking on a theme which is very important. I'll take it beyond Kolkata, beyond Bengal. As a clip which went viral last week, the gentleman who invested with, Warren Buffett's partner died at the age of 100.
Charlie Munger.
Charlie Bunger's, comment went viral after he passed away, where he was asked a question. He said, Mr. Munger, tell me, what Lee Kuan Yew did, China adopted, Xiaoping did it, China changed. Now we are told that in India, the government of India is trying to do what Lee Kuan Yew did to Singapore. Do you think that's possible? And then he goes on to contemptuously dismiss it. He says that, see, India has taken the worst from us, blaming the ills of democracy. He gave the example of POSCO. And he said there was, I don't remember the quote, there was poor quality coal from which you could have built poor quality steel, and you had poor quality iron ore. You could have built great quality steel, but what happened? There were some protests in India, the investment failed, POSCO went back. So my question is this limited to China? See, when we're talking about growth and the India advantage, at some point of time, however strong your institutions, do some aspects of democracy, become an impediment?
Arnab.
Now, ask him a question.
Arnab, what is your most important asset, your life? Where is your life safest? In a democracy, not in totalitarian government. Okay? We got to be the
No, I'm not batting for a totalitarian government.
Hang on. See,
you got the point what I mean.
No, I got the point.
In terms of dissent, democracy, obstacles to growth.
Democracy is very good, but we need the economic system. We had democracy with a socialistic economic system. That is what has hurt India. If democracy comes with a compassionate capitalistic system, like is happening today, it will work. And it has worked wonders in the last 30 years. And that is what we must see. For the first 40 years of our independence, we did badly because the economic policy that has to work. I think that is important. Let me give you one piece of data which will give you hope. In the year March 31, 2023, corporate tax collection was 10,04,000 crores. At a 25% tax rate, which will be actually 22%, pre-tax profits of 40 lakh crores the corporate sector. That is 15% of GDP of 23 lakh crores, 273 lakh crores. Look at the things that are happening in this country. Look at the investment that is happening. It's happening now. It's happened for the last 10, 12, 15 years. That is going to give the results. Today we invested $1 trillion in GDP, $1 trillion every year. Government invests $250 billion. Government tax collections for direct tax are going up in double digits for the last 4 years. Where is this coming from? That is coming from growth, that is coming from investment, that is coming from employment. All the things are happening. But to transform India, we have to make sure we stay the course for the next 7 to 8 years. Now, against a totalitarian government is not sustainable. That is what the Soviet Union taught us.
Right.
If China is sustainable, we have to wait and see. But India is sustainable definitely today. Will our economy grow in tune with what India does? Of course it will grow. Our people have freedom of choice, freedom to exercise a profession. Those are great things to fight for and live for. Now, Lee Kuan Yew could do it in a small state which has got 6 million people, half the population of Bangalore. We can't compare China with this. Here we got Arnab 450 television channels, 2,000 newspapers, and we got an Arnab Goswami who expresses dissent every single minute on his channel all across India. How do you think the country will prosper with all this? We prosper.
Sometimes expressing it against his own guests.
Absolutely.
No, but Sanjeev, in Singapore, nobody can own more than 12% of any media entity. You guys are teaming up now. Stop teaming up. I'm sitting in the middle. You can't make a team. I'm the one, Sanjeev. I throw a curveball at the negativity gang every day.
So let me tell you.
But my point is this. My point, you got the question.
Authoritarian governments with market systems succeeded. Democratic systems with market systems succeeded. Various kinds of combinations of political systems with markets succeeded. What does it tell you? It's about having a market-based system. We finally have one. And so we are succeeding. Nothing very deep about it. So the main point is it's about having a sensible market-based system.
Now, in the context of what you said about Bengal, of course, Bengal has had a different politics. Let's take Bengal and let's take Karnataka. We have the growth figures in Karnataka in double digits at 11, 12, 13% right now.
Yes, 13%. 13%.
Nominal. Size of economy, 300?
About 335 billion this
335 billion.
Bangalore is 160 to 180 billion.
So by that logic, if at the rate of growth, we are obviously saying that some point of time in the next 10 years or less, maybe 2030, Karnataka becomes $1 trillion economy.
Yes, 2032.
Karnataka becomes $1 trillion economy.
Bengal?
Karnataka alone.
Yes.
By
Bengal?
which year?
Bengal?
By which year?
No. By about 2032.
By 2032, Karnataka becomes $1 trillion economy. Now, Karnataka keeps changing its government.
Yes.
So it's not about the political party in power.
Absolutely.
So what we worry about in India is, what if the government in Delhi changes? Then will everything go for a toss?
No.
Now, give the Karnataka example where it has changed, but the economy is growing, and can you put that in context for us?
You see, the culture in Karnataka is open and very transparent. The people of Karnataka are welcoming to the outsider. There is nothing to drive away business. We are creating jobs, and the government is of a rich state is doing some things politicians like to make money for themselves, because the leading politician said, I'm in politics to do business. So they're very business oriented because they want everybody to prosper. It's a very different culture. The culture is not about suppression of capital to just talk about it with ideology. Karnataka's ideology is growth, whether it's the Congress or the BJP or anything, growth plus for themselves. You understand?
Right.
Now that is working. Now, if you look at other states, Telangana has done very well in the last 5 years, right? Tamil Nadu has not done so well. Kerala has not done so well because they're still stuck in the past, right? Gujarat has done very well. The Gujarat model has worked to a great extent. Maharashtra has been indifferent. Maharashtra can grow. But Bombay is doing very well now. Delhi, NCR region is doing well because of the investment. So if you look all across India, what matters is the local economic condition, the human capital, and the availability of people. Now, Calcutta had the advantage. In 35 years, the CPM drove it away. And the rest of the country benefited. Many of the industry came to Bangalore, set up factories. We benefited. You understand that?
I take it. Could you answer that?
Absolutely. So, at the end, the national government can do national things.
Yeah.
Control the macro indicators, inflation, set up some national level infrastructure like airports, highways, etc. But in the end, the activity that happening on the ground is a state-driven thing. So the central government has now created a platform. If Karnataka can grow very rapidly, given that particular framework, the Bengal can't crib that, because after all it's benefiting from the same macro system. So ultimately the states that are lagging behind have got to stand up and begin to compete. And they will only do it when the political, intellectual climate of that place begins to demand it. So that is what I think needs to happen in eastern India. I mean, it has happened to some extent in Odisha, for example. Assam has happened. So it is happening in some ways, but the point is these states do not have enough clout. And the reason I come back to Bengal is specifically because of Kolkata. Never mind the state of Bengal. The city of Calcutta has to pull its own weight, because even today it is by some margin much bigger than all the other surrounding cities. And it really still has some amount of industrial, intellectual capital to be able to really get growing. So if I had to get some place in eastern India to grow at double-digit growth and keep it sustained over a period of time, my best bet still today is Kolkata.
Wow.
You know,
wow.
Arnab,
I'm glad you said that.
Arnab,
Because I agree
somebody
with
has
you.
to do it.
Arnab, look at UP. UP
Yeah.
was a basket case.
Yeah.
Look at what Yogi has done. Yogi is creating the investment climate. People are flocking there. The infrastructure is developing. UP is growing rapidly. UP has got revenue surplus, investing hugely. Why is that? Political leadership which is proactive in creating conditions for entrepreneurship, for investment, for development, and development of human capital, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, political leadership is extremely important for any state.
Yeah.
Now we have to look at state level reforms, and states have to compete. Like he said, why is Bengal fallen down? It's the political ideology and the attitude of the people and the elite. The elite of Calcutta decided, like he said, to go backwards because they wanted to have the same Adda since 1947, whether the British left because of, Netaji Bose, or they left because of the mutiny, or they left because of Gandhi. They still not settled the debate.
No,
right?
I'm sorry,
They're
but
going back.
no. The British left because of Netaji. The British were so scared of Netaji that they chose to leave
No, but let me tell you, this is
you're going to
actually,
get provoked on a very touchy
by the way, this is
subject.
actually a rather important issue. You see, there are two states in India which sacrificed an entire generation for getting India free.
Yes, Bengal.
Both of them, unfortunately, were partitioned and got a big shock.
Yes.
But also, because this generation was essentially decimated, in many cases just literally killed, it left behind disproportionately a collaborator class in both these states, which continued, in fact, after independence to prosper. So one of the funny things about both Punjab and Bengal is that the post-independence elite of both these states are not those who fought for independence, but those who had collaborated with the British. And this has been a big price we have paid for it.
You know, Arnab, Bengal has to
and
grow
they
for
had
India.
co-collaborators on the other side also, which is
Yeah.
why Jinnah never gave up his house in Mumbai. He thought, I'll keep coming up and
Arnab-
down. Do you know Jinnah invested in a property near Shimla just
Yeah.
before partition when he knew we were getting partition?
You know,
So the collaborator class was on both sides.
Arnab,
Okay, we're going to
Bengal-
history
Arnab,
now.
Bengal has to develop for the good of India. All of us want Bengal to develop. Bengal should lead India.
Wow.
I had tears in my eyes once when I saw Mamata Banerjee as a minister for railways flagging off two rails, full rails of students coming to write the CET in Karnataka. Everybody went to Bengal for higher education.
That's
Here
true.
the minister was so proud to send trains of students to Bangalore to write the CET.
This is the true poverty of imagination
Yes.
and aspiration.
Yes.
That the achievement is actually flagging off a train to go to another state to study.
Yes. I mean,
And
Bengal has to come up. We should root for Bengal. Bengal has to develop. The Bengali elite should take up the lead. Then the whole of Eastern India develop. India will develop 2 percentage points more every year. With Bihar not developing, Bengal not pulling his weight, with Punjab not pulling his weight, Kerala not pulling, we're still growing at 7%. If they start pulling the weight, we'll grow at 9-10%.
That's
Look
crazy.
at that. If you look at China,
Yeah.
every region had good leadership which pulled up China. Every region competed in growth and development.
That's so true.
Here some regions are competing in suppressing capital. Now we have to change the narrative. It can only happen if your Bangla television channel can change the narrative in Bengal.
It's already done so. Well, anyway, I've had a fantastic time out here. This is a great conversation, and I feel very optimistic about it. Quick last 1-minute comment. Republic Business is launching. We believe in nation first. What's nation first in the world of business? In a short.
Arnab, Republic Business should focus on the growth of India, the flowering of Indian entrepreneurship, the developments happening here, give hope to the young people of India, empower them with a dream, and show Indian entrepreneurship develop into the rest of the world to change the way the world looks at India.
Thank
you
you.
have to have a very positive impact on this country using business as a fundamental platform.
Absolutely. I think that's so true. There's so much sluggishness around. Same to you.
So let me add to that. Yes, of course, you need to show a new India that's emerging. And all the negativity very often that you see needs to be countered with the fact that there are genuinely powerful changes that are happening in our society and economy. But at the same time, I hope that you will also use it to bring up genuine lacuna in our policy making. I mean, we need feedback. Please provide that feedback. And let me say that this government at least will pay attention and do our best to make changes that you need
Well,
to
thank you, Sanjeev, and
Arnab,
thank you,
Arnab,
Mohan.
I want to leave you with a thought.
Yeah.
The soul of a nation, long suppressed, finds utterance today.
I'm not a Nehruvian. I'm not a Nehru fan. So you just quoted Nehru, and
It's happening today.
yeah, it's happening today. I thank you so much for the thought behind that, Mohan and Sanjeev. Thank you for being here with us today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. That was wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining us today. The next session explores and understands the remarkable journey of building a legacy of the R.P. Sanjeev Goenka Group. We understand the rich history, enduring values, and strategic vision that have shaped the success and sustainability of one of India's most esteemed businesses. Mr. Goenka took the reins of the R.P. Sanjeev Goenka Group and has played a pivotal role in steering the conglomerate to newer heights. The RPSG Group, under his leadership, has expanded its footprint across various sectors, including power and energy, carbon black, retail, IT and education, among others. He is also the board member for IIT Kharagpur and International Management Institute. Before I call him on the stage, let's take a look at this next AV.
India's imprint on the global map is stronger and powerful than ever. As the world looks up to India, one aspect that we will focus on is building legacy and value creation. Legacy conglomerates have not only carved a niche on global platform, but are also seen as emerging opportunities to ride the next decade of growth. From value creation to growing legacies, India is set to become a force to reckon with. In the words of Dr. Sanjeev Goenka, the founder of R.P. Sanjeev Goenka Group, transformation is the only way forward.
And I think it's just about believing in your dream, believing in your vision, not getting distracted by the clutter and the cacophony of the noise around you, and just focusing on what you need to do, carry on doing it well. Results will be there.
Sanjeev Goenka joins us at India Economic Summit for a deeper insight into the legacy of visionary business leaders in India.
Round of applause for him, please. Also joining him on the stage is Ms. Sharmila Bhaumik, Business Editor, Republic Media and Editor. I beg your pardon, Republic Media Network.
What a good day to have you here with us, sir.
It's always good to be here.
Since I was a very young reporter back in Calcutta, and when your father used to chair the press conferences, I have been tracking your story. So, you know what, when I hear about your group, when I hear about the story of your company, the first thing that strikes me is how beautifully you've been able to remain agile over decades. So what is at the heart of the RPSG group?
One of the things that legacy teaches you is to grow, and grow by responding to situations, to the environment, which is what we've been doing. So if I were to track our evolution over the last several decades, it's gone from jute, textiles and tea to commodities to infrastructure, and now with the focus on the consumer. So if you see, we've moved away or are moving away from government intervention intensive businesses We are moving towards businesses where the consumer is the king. There is consumer focus, there is consumer centricity, and we are moving to value-added businesses. So growth which is profitable, growth which is in value-added sectors, growth which is in sectors where you get higher multiples than routine.
What makes your group unique to me is that, people say that West Bengal needs investments, this and that, but you've been able to expand from that geography and expand your footprint wide and far. So there has not been any restriction for your growth, as I can see over the years.
Well, we've invested completely nationally. So in fact, some of our big investments are in Western India. We've invested actually across the country, as we have invested in Bengal. And we've been by and large happy with our investments across the country. I must say that we've recently, over the last few years, invested a lot in Uttar Pradesh. And I've been blown away by what I see of what's happening in Uttar Pradesh and the leadership provided by Yogi ji. It's absolutely fantastic.
Infrastructure is the cornerstone of any company or any development to take place. But at the same time, being able to embrace technology is very important. And for legacy groups, for companies which have been around for decades, how is being able to adapt to new technologies important right now?
Probably one of the most important things. Adapting to technology, adapting to situations, adapting to agility, and how fast the consumer expects you to change. That is now going to be the cornerstone of successful businesses going forward. We are trying to do that. We're trying to reinvent ourselves. It's a continuous process, and every day there is something new to be learned. And I think our Prime Minister shows us the way, in the way he's leading the country, in the way he's redefined the country, in the way he's taken every Indian's prestige on the world stage to a different level, in the way he's redefined aspirations, in the way he's redefined the scale. I think that is what each one of us need to do in our own small domains.
There has perhaps never been a better time for India Inc. because of the stability that we are enjoying at the moment. So and manufacturing is increasingly becoming important in India as well, and therein comes in power and power supply. So what is your comment on the current, ease of doing business environment in India?
Well, I think the BJP government has changed the way one operated in India. And it's become so much easier to think global, genuinely think global scales, to manufacture in India, to operate in India, and to grow from India. I think that's a huge change. In the past 15, 20 years ago, we didn't have economic policies which were conducive to growth. Today we do. And that's why you see almost every Indian company is growing and growing very fast.
One of the big discussions at all times is India versus China versus the world. And we are all cheerleaders of India, of course. So what are the few steps that India has to keep in mind as it sort of gallops forward?
I think we've taken many steps, and of course, they'll always mange more. But I think there is enough on our plate to actually move ahead. And if I were to look at the growth plans that we have, even those may be small by national standards, but are enough to keep us busy for the next 3-4 years. And they will be at a scale which we've never invested in the past. It's much, 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 much more. And I think this is pretty much the same story I hear when I discuss around industry and around corporates. So you will see expansion, you will see investments, you will see job creations, you will see wealth creation. And that is thanks to the policies of this government.
Unemployment has been in conversations in the country, in the narrative. But do you think that is a challenge or an opportunity? I mean, because skilled talent is also our forte. So do you see there is a demographic advantage we have at the moment?
You know, when a nation grows, I think more and more people get employed, and there are more opportunities. And that's what's happening. So I'm not a statistician, so I don't know the specific data. But having said that, all I can say is that I see many more jobs being created. I see many more people being employed. I see a lot more consumption happening than has ever happened in the past. And those are signs of growth.
There are lots of emerging segments that we are already witnessing in manufacturing areas, and the way technology has changed, even in your consumer goods segment, the way people consume, everything is in a dynamic change. So what are the few trends over the next couple of years that you see India is ready to witness?
I think the Indian consumer is becoming more and more demanding. Better quality, cheaper prices, innovations change much faster, willing to experiment, shifting towards green, quote unquote, more and more natural. So I think these are trends, but 2 years from now, 3 years from now, you'll see different trends. So we are investing largely now in, so my son is going to launch a venture for alternate natural pharma, which he will launch in India in April and in the US in November. It's a new trend. It's about consuming things which are chemical free, but are equally efficacious in terms of the results that they grant. These are inspired by Ayurveda. And this is going to be a very big move towards taking Ayurveda to the international stage.
Conscious capitalism,
Absolutely, conscious capitalism, but also taking pride in our Indian roots, in our Indian origins, in the science and technology that India has had for centuries, but has not taken it global.
You have always been entrenched in Bengal. What is your take on the industrial environment in our state?
I've learned not to look at one state in isolation. I look at the nation, that's my playground. And there are enough growth opportunities everywhere. I must say that I'm emotionally invested in Bengal. Born there, lived there, will die there. So, when you speak about Bengal, to me, you speak to a person who's biased.
Bengal, of course, has been a bank of talent for the rest of the country and perhaps large parts of the world. So it's time that we also saw, that benefit coming back to the state. Having said that, the young energy of the country is something to be reined in, because there is a lot of skill available in the country right now. So as employers, what do you think, what sort of talent are you looking for? Should the next generation be, really basing their education on, efforts on?
I think as long as they're willing to be sincere, as long as they are willing to use their minds, I think opportunities are enormous.
This portfolio of your group is so wide.